Maybe we could start with like a super short intentions distractions, like a sentence each or so, and then if you feel you have something you want to add to the no, let's take that afterwards. Adding to the agenda. My intention for this call is to sort of bring hear your ideas about what is needed to do with the reward system, and see and how you would like to contribute to making that a reality, and the proposal that Livy make to make sure that we try to create something in the short to midterm, after the commons upgrade. And my distractions are none, I'd say. I'll pass it to Lauren.
Yeah, my intentions are similar. I'm interested in just like the discussion on praise and reward, source credit, and how we integrate all of that, and then we're also trying to do something similar for Giveth. So I'd love it if we kind of like cross mind meld, and just come up with a good system that works for everybody. And I'll pass it. Oh, I'm not distracted. I'll pass it to Lydia.
Thanks. Super happy to see this full room. My intentions are just to understand which path we're taking. So there are a few that Christopher is gonna explain a little bit, I think, and as we move along, and also to see how some of the next steps we can take, who is collaborating on what, and maybe getting a little timeline even together today. That would be great. And I'm also not distracted. And I'll pass to Nugget.
Yeah, well, glad to be here. Intentions just see what's going on and how I can join, in which way I can help, and kind of see where everything is going, and just offer my help as much as I can. And distractions none, but I have been having some internet issues, at least at the beginning of the call. It just didn't work that right. So maybe I'll just pop out and in sometime during the call. I don't know what's going to happen. But yeah, and I'll pass it to Matteo.
Hey everyone. So essentially my intentions come from maybe getting a better idea of what we should do. I've been down the rabbit hole of source code and what the guys on One Hive have done with the many plugins, so it can get very overwhelming. So it should be very nice to have like a better condensed idea of what we should be doing. And I think this is perfect for that. We have many great minds in this call. I think we will come up with something interesting out of this. And I'll pass it to YGG.
Thanks, Matteo. Intentions are to really just listen and hear what everyone has to say. I'm really excited to be opening up rewards development in the labs. We have about 6 weeks slotted for that for now. And just listen and synchronize with everyone today. And I'm super distracted by this puppy over here. It's really energetic in the morning. So I'll pass over to Johan.
You guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, awesome. I'll start with intention. I'm a developer for Longtail Financial. Sean's my boss. I was invited here by Olivia and Sean. They told me the group might need one of our projects, namely our Discord bot that logs time spent on voice channels. Also, another important intention of mine is to understand the main idea of this reward system that we're collaborating on. Just like Sean, I just want to sync up with everybody here. Distraction would be, I'm not used to waking up this early. I'll pass it on to whoever wants to go next. I'll choose someone randomly. How about Griff?
Can you hear us, Griff?
Okay, let's come back to Griff, and perhaps Manu would like to step in.
Yeah, thanks, Christopher. Intentions.
My internet doesn't seem to be working, so I'll just pass it to Vivavi.
Okay.
Manu, you go first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Intentions. I just want to listen in, see what I can contribute. Sorry about the telephone. And yeah, I'm working on researching some type of organization that deals with the holons, holarchy, and holonic networks. So seeing if I contribute with that and how that ties into the reward system. Distractions, no distraction whatsoever, and I'll pass it to Chuy.
Thanks, Manu. Intentions for today, just get a better sense of where everything around reward system is going. It's if you haven't heard, we've been working a lot on a comes DAO proposal. But knowing what the base like reward system is going to be and how it's going to be configured is something that we're also taking in account. So yeah, also by my experience in One Hive, I know that it's something that it's not as easy as it seems at first, and it's super like manual. So yeah, I'm glad to help and contribute in any way I can. Distractions. I'm gonna be working on a presentation that I'm gonna be doing later at Dork, but I'm gonna be like going back and forth. That's my only distraction, and I'll pass it Septi.
Thanks, Chuy. Yeah, my intentions is just to get awareness on how the reward system is going to work, support when I can, and yeah, just listening and learn. I'll pass it to bye baby. I don't have any distraction.
Hi, so mainly I came here to see what's the discussion in here and listen in on what's going on with respect to this proposal that Christopher has. I also had a few ideas for the trace bot and how it's going to be rebuilt a while afterwards, like by RDF so that's something that I would be interested in listening. What's the roadmap for that? Uh, that's pretty much it. I'll pass it to Mount Manu. No, Mount Manu is gone. Ziptimus.
I think everyone has gone, haven't they? Yeah. Is there someone who hasn't spoken? No. So thank you again for everyone for coming. Livy, would you care to describe in short what was like the core additions that you proposed in your proposal, the changes to the current process?
Sure. So I think the main change would be to diversify the quantifiers we have and to make that a little more random. So we would have, let's say, 10 quantifiers instead of 3, working on smaller pieces of data that would be randomized. So there's not so much relation between one and another, and multiple people, maybe 2 or 3 people, would receive the same data sheets. So we would still have that average that we had in the quantification before, but it would just be more distributed. And then from there, we wouldn't need to do that together in a call. So we would do that async. And when we come together, it's just to debate more like the cultural insights of that praise, because what is being praised offers such a is such a knowledge base about what the community is, what is happening, what are the contributions being done. And I think as we scale and as more people join, is a good like health check to keep having these meetings, maybe a 30-minute or an hour meeting instead of the 3 to 4 hour meetings we used to have before. So people would do that async and then just meet for this like social analysis process and exchanging insights and seeing if something needs to be tweaked or not, or how is the data looking. And the idea that Octopus suggested is that in the end of this 2 weeks, we would have dashboards where we could run an analysis constantly. So the reason why the analysis took so long when we did for the impact hour intervention process was because the data was dirty and it was a year of data that had to be analyzed instead of just like 2 weeks of data. So if we put this into our practice, we would always have updated graphs and ways to play with in the dashboard. And those meetings, the social meetings, would start informing us what are the best metrics we have to analyze the data of the community. So, for example, in that process, we use the Gini coefficient as one of the metrics. But then we question, like, is the Gini coefficient a good metric? Because it's a metric used for countries. Are we like necessarily having to go into that, or we can find other metrics that are better to give like more specific information for our organization? So this is a process that will constantly have to happen too. But the good part is that we'll have like a very educated community around the cultural and all types of contributions that happen. And then another part of this proposal is integrating this with SourceCred. So we have SourceCred running in the background for a while, but we haven't been rewarding people from the SourceCred data we have because we didn't want to mess up with praise before having a deeper look into this. So SourceCred is really good for rewarding objective contributions, and praise is great for rewarding more subjective contributions. So could we drop some of the things that were being rewarded by praise into SourceCred only? So we make it smaller, the quantification process even more, and this praises that and these contributions that are objective can be just like simply automated and rewarded by SourceCred. So something that he's not here today, but he was saying that Twitter, for example, that it's a very easy way to, it's a very fixed cluster. Like all of the interactions that people have with Twitter, they are important for us because they offer a good metric about engagement and they should be rewarded. But then when they come to praise, they are almost like spam. So they could be rewarded by SourceCred, by one of these plugins. So these are some of the things that we are looking into, how to separate more like qualitative from quantitative data for more like, objective data. And then there's also Alexandra that was developed by Johan, and that records time spent in calls. So we also want to integrate that into the mix because a lot of the praises that we have now come from like praising people for participating in meetings. So taking that out will also make a lot smaller the influx that we have for the quantification. And then with that, we have like many challenges, but we'll still figure it out, the best plug and play of these integrations. But then the idea is that all of this data would go to the reward DAO. It's a DAO that we already have now that was being used for the testing we were doing with SourceCred. So we could just repurpose that DAO. It almost works like a multi-sig. There are like few people in there that can vote, but we have a little process for that. So all of this data would go to the reward system DAO and would have to be approved for being distributed to all of the people that contributed. And this distribution would happen using some bots that we would have to collect addresses from all of the people that participate in our community and all of this reward systems. I think that's an overall. Back to you, Christopher.
Thanks. Yeah, combining all those data streams into one process that would allow us sort of like one praise flow and one and also you said that, but I want to put really stress that to add the transparency at all everywhere in the process, so that, for instance, if we can vote on changing the parameters that decide how much a tweet gets, etc. But let me show you what, and I have tried to model the different processes that we have sort of identified. I have identified 5 different processes, 5 different routes that we could take. And do you see my screen?
Yes.
And yeah, the first version is doing as little as possible, and that would be basically the same process as we use today, which is based mostly on Google Sheets, etc. But we would also try to bring in, and also in that scenario, maybe we would let SourceCred run like a completely separate stream. But the praise is happening. It's the Discord bot and the Telegram bot, and Alexandra, maybe we could merge or all into one giant sheet, and then we do our calculations, our analytics, and the quantifiers. That group of people do some sort of manual validation with the cultural land analysis that we described, and then feeding that data into the rewards DAO that pays the quantifiers and the contributors, and maybe also this reward system committee, which I'm not certain we need that at all, if we choose to make this simple process. But maybe we do. We still need to request funds from the TEC and fund the rewards DAO. So that is the most simple process. In the second one, we are adding some kind of product that we could call the praise quantifier or something, and that is a tool that would make it easier for us to do the manual praise quantification, which means that all the praise data goes into some sort of backend, and then there's a step of assignment where the group of quantifiers, the different individuals in the quantifier groups, get assigned a certain amount of praise data. So the data is split among the quantifiers, and they do the quantification asynchronously at their own pace. And then when they are done, before a set date, the data is merged again into then becoming quantified praise data. We take that quantified praise data and we merge it with the stream coming from SourceCred and Alexandra, and again end up with a gigantic spreadsheet, and the rest of the process is the same. The third option would be to feed SourceCred data into our praise quantifier, sort of combining more stuff. So we still have the praise as usual. We bring in Alexandra, the meeting data, into our database as well, but we also export SourceCred data into our database, and then most of the flow is the same, where the quantifiers do the manual quantifications. The pre-quantified data has sort of a bypasses that system because the source cred data doesn't need to be quantified. But then we also, instead of relying on spreadsheets, we add functionality for doing the allocation and the validation into this backend, this server system. So we exchange spreadsheets for a server where we calculate token distribution based on parameters that are transparent that we can vote on, etc. From each period. And in this situation, the quantifiers would really get together in this step after the allocations have been calculated and do like a validation and check all the numbers, and they have the ability to do manual adjustments, etc. And down below here, I added what could be the different dashboards you access. You have some sort of data dashboard where you can control the data in the system. You have an admin dashboard where you can add and remove quantifiers, maybe based on votes that we do in the DAO. You have the quantification dashboard where individual quantifiers, they perform their quant work. Then again, the data dashboard, and you have some sort of analytics dashboard that could be also outside of the system completely, with the ability to export the data to do more deep analysis, etc. And then the validation dashboard, where you do these manual adjustments if you need, and export to the DAO, and then the rest of the process is the same. The fourth would be sort of the other way around. So instead of feeding source cred data into our system, we feed our data into source cred. And that has the added benefit of not having to do the token allocation ourselves, because source cred has this fancy algorithm on how to distribute and calculate cred and grain. So if we just manage to produce a high quality graph of our praise and our contributions with weights connected to it, then we can let source cred do the calculations and come up with the cred and the grain but here in this scenario, there's a step here where we need to sort of translate grain into TEC, and I don't know if that is something source cred can do, that it can, instead of calculating grain, it could calculate whichever token, but grain, as far as I know, is off chain. So that was the fourth variety, and then the fifth one would be like, scrap the praise system and go with Coordinate. I have read up on Nagan, your excellent sort of overview on the Coordinate. I think it has obvious benefits, but also obvious drawbacks for an organization that is so loosely organized as the TEC. So that is a lot of information. Where to go from here? Like I said, my intention is for us to sort of have get a feeling of which way we would like to go, and ideally get a sense of who would like to contribute to this becoming a reality. And in the best of worlds, decide that this is a working group. These are the people that would like to join, and in probably not today, establish also some sort of roadmap or timeline. But I'll open the floor completely to you for a few minutes, and what are your thoughts pop up?
Maybe I want to add that the fourth option, the feasibility of doing that one gets a little bit more complicated, because we would be depending on SourceCred team to add a new plugin. and for all of the sources that they are not currently integrating. So maybe we could reformulate that fourth option, because I'm not sure if technical possible right now on what SourceCred currently has.
So
For example,
writing your own plugin for SourceCred is not an option.
I'm not sure. Coming from what I've seen, I think it's possible, but maybe someone from SourceCred is the ideal person to do it, because it's a mess. So not sure. For example, doing Twitter and Alexandria to feed our SourceCred, I'm not sure if that's easy to do.
Sorry, I forgot to say that the link to the Miro board is in the community hall chat, if you would like to scroll for yourself.
If I can add something to what Matteo said, because like we were talking about that, Christopher, in the labs channel, about this team that was supposedly integrating SourceCred with Coordinate. I've looked a bit into that, talked to the guys. It was the guys at Meta Factory, and they aren't actually doing that. They are using both. I think they had the plan to kind of mix it, but it seems to be more complicated than they thought. So for now, they're going with both things in parallel. So maybe what Matteo said is like, maybe it's just really a lot of work to integrate everything into one SourceCred input stream. We could look into it, but I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, that seems like a super important thing to assess the feasibility of doing that. I'm talking with Haz. Have you spoken to him? Some of you have, maybe on Monday. I think he has some deeper insight into SourceCred, but maybe we'll have to reach out to their team as well.
I think from those options, my favorite is the third, where we build more like a praise product, and then all of the data we have is being fed into this dashboard, and we have the possibility of performing all of these things in the dashboard, and we don't have the spreadsheets anymore. I think I was talking to Tam about maybe Coordinate being useful for like working groups if they wanted to delegate work with the funds that they captured from the DAO, for example, that it could be more like a local solution. But I really like the idea of developing praise into something that other teams can use, and also continuing the culture. Like, I feel like praise was really a big part of the culture on just how people, I think Nugget wrote something interesting in his report that praise is freely given. Like, there's no cap on how much praise you can give. And I think that's an interesting flow for everyone that's joining. Like, no cap on gratitude.
Yeah, that's it is really tempting to see develop praise into like a standalone system that could be used by other communities as well. But then maybe the ambition shouldn't be at all to bring the SourceCred data into that system, but instead let SourceCred be one separate stream on the side, and sort of live with that. We have the praise system, which also includes Alexandra, the meetings, and then the SourceCred is a separate thing. But it also, of course, would be really nice to have this combined analysis of all the work that has been done, whether it be in SourceCred or the praise or system, or yeah.
Yeah, if I can say something, I also find the idea of building something from the TC, like developing the praise system into something standalone that we can just have a product that other people use, is a good idea and something really cool. Yes, the only thing I about these proposals that I think is, I'm not like, I personally would prefer a system that doesn't rely the less possible on just personal quantify, like on a small group of quantifiers, because I'm not sure how good, something that can scale. And here it works because we are an awesome community we have this strong cultural alignment, cultural build, which kind of makes it very safe. But if you want to make a product that everybody can use, building something that relies on a small group of people to kind of have that much control over the payroll can be risky. But I think that doing something with the praise, I wrote in the report, and I think it's an important point, that having unlimited praise is something good and something special that I think is, it's important also to how this has worked the whole time. On that point, I would like to add that the guys because I'm a bit in that headspace because I've been reading up on that. The guys at Coordinate are planning to go open source like in a month or two, and are generally very open to collaborations and stuff. So I think if we have feedback, we can bring it to them. I think we could probably fork something they do and kind of use all the backward because they have a lot of data visualization stuff and all that. So maybe that's something also to keep in mind, that we can, kind of talk to them and use some of the work they've already done and set on the similarities and just kind of do our own thing. Maybe that could be an option. Not sure.
Yeah, because what one real strength they have is that when the members of a group they give to each other, that they all know each other, that they know why the work that the others in the group is good work or not. But when using the praise system and the community grows and people will not know each other by first name, or they don't recognize who is this, and it after a while, I guess it will become difficult to assess was this a valuable contribution or not, for the quantifiers to make that assessment. And also one possible problem is that, for instance, when the comms, Chui suggested the comms DAO, what happens when we have more like formal working groups having maybe their own budgets, etc. But we have one big praise system. How would the tokens be allocated? It becomes quite complex, especially for something like the comms DAO, where we have also a lot of contributors that are outside of the comms DAO doing comms work. So you have, we want to give tokens to people retweeting and sort of doing comms work, but they're not part of the group, and the group has a budget, but we have only, it's not, it's complex.
One thing that I'd like to say is the conversation around having a backend. I think RDF PBX, who initially made the praise bot, was talking about. I think they've started working on making a backend API for the entire bot. So if they're working on that, I think we could maybe communicate this with them, and we could collaborate with them to change the entire praise system into something that's backend based. And then, because since if it's an API, we could do stuff like get data from Alexander to there, or get data from other pods into that backend, and then we could do whatever we want with the data stored over there. So if they're working on it, we could maybe communicate with them, especially with regard to what we want to change in the system, because a lot of the things we are talking about are similar to what the changes they were suggesting. They're also making a dashboard, I think, for praise. So that's something that we could talk about.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, Vivi, thank you for that. That's really interesting. I'm trying to, I guess my intention that I didn't mention through this, or maybe I did, but I'm trying to figure out what structure and form the labs are going to take as we focus on this topic. So I'm thinking, so far, I'm seeing that there's two channels. There's systems, development, implementation, deployment, and there's research on sort of pure praise concepts. What are the patterns? How can we generalize praise? How do we measure the system, so almost like meta metrics? How do we how do we measure the different praise or rewards implementations and associate that with the values of our community. So that's sort of on the research end. And then there's the systems implementation, which is just actually wiring everything up together. And Christopher, thank you for the presentations. Awesome. And the Miro boards for so precise, which is really useful. But I'm thinking like the TEC labs, we have a pool of talent, of programmers, of mathematicians, whatever it may be. I'm thinking it might be appropriate as we go through this sort of 6-week process to just have 2 parallel channels that go through the labs. Maybe we divide people up into like a research section and a systems implementation section. And I feel like that could work really well. But the thing I would want to bring to the community here is saying, okay, well, let's get lots of bodies out. If we could have 20 or 30 people coming out to the labs and have that split into 2 groups, focusing on research and focusing on systems implementation, I think we could make really good progress. If that's possible, for example, Vivavi, if the team you mentioned would want to come out to the labs, then that would create that sort of perfect environment. Schedules are different for everyone, so if that's not possible, then maybe the systems implementation team would be able to meet the development team that you just mentioned in some other setting. But yeah, I'm kind of putting that out there for everyone in the call here about structuring the labs in that sense.
I think as of yet, they're not a team. It's only one person working on it. I'll try and mention this to them so that they might come up and communicate with the labs group.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, I guess that there's like a quite pressing need of having something workable online, quite close to the Commons upgrade, because after that people or live like you described. The longer we wait, the bigger the backlog of praise we have to sort of churn through, and the higher the risk that we will end up in another praise Mageddon, because we have thousands of praise that all of a sudden we realize that we have been praising the wrong way for months and months. So what I'm saying is, how do we make sure to get something up and running quite soon, but also bring in all the insight from the labs?
I'm thinking the other option is to spin up a sort of rewards development task force, similar to what we've had, kind of like the Commons Swarm. Like Griff is really familiar with this process, like leading little squads of developers on different initiatives. So maybe we have sort of a praise development or rewards development like task force, like a squad of programmers who are, they're all in. There's probably like some sort of direct compensation or some sort of system that sets it up for success. And then the labs could just be a research environment, and there could be some overlap and some collaboration. That's one option. Maybe I'll see what Griff thinks about that. The other option is kind of what I said before, where we have 2 channels in the TEC labs, where we have like a research focus group and we have a systems implementation focus group. And then just to fully brainstorm, like there would be another way to shift this, where, because like you said, we want to have this all tuned up for the Commons upgrade. So maybe research initiatives go on hold and we go like all in on, infrastructure development and systems development. But I would definitely like Christopher, yourself, to like join the labs. You've got this design aspect, and definitely looking to different community members for leadership in this, because I can attract developers just through what I do, but when it comes to the systems architecting and just a little bit of organizational management, definitely would lean out to the community for help on those aspects.
Yeah, cool. No, I think the task force idea is sounds great. That, or rather, that is how I have seen it, thought about it going forward. That we try to establish a working group that with the focus of getting something up and running, not as soon as possible, but almost as soon as possible. But also taking height for doing a decent software engineering. so with the knowledge of that new insight will come from labs later on. So we will need and want to continue develop this thing. So we don't just do a hack, like 100% a hack just now, but also start something that we would like to continue building.
Sounds incredible to me. Yeah, a dedicated task force for software engineering, and then the labs can be like exploring the surface area of possibilities and sort of doing research and mining, looking at all the different reward systems and aggregating like insights that can be fed to the software engineering team.
Yeah. And I think I did get a go ahead from Griff on this being the dev work being financed by Commons build, the iteration 0, in a similar fashion like the parameters working group, or so we could do a similar setup as that, which makes it easy to get going and yeah.
I'll definitely help out with HR and make sure that funding streams exist.
Thank you. So then maybe we have only like 10 minutes left. Maybe we should approach that subject of who who would like to join this task force of reward system ninjas.
Well, I definitely volunteer. I'd love to do it. And yeah, and just to get back to what you said, I think it's important to get something up and running, of course. But I think we can also, if we approach it in a way like we are iterating weekly or every 2 weeks, I think that gives us also a lot of slack from the, like, if we're actively making changes, we don't have to have something completely finished from the beginning. I think it's acceptable to have, like, okay, we have, you said you have SourceGrid running, just we're going to use SourceGrid and we're going to use Alexia because we can put it in a week or two. And for the rest, we still use the old Praise system and you kind of swap the parts out as we go.
Yeah,
I think that is definitely a possibility, even if we arrive at the final version in, I don't know, 2 months. I don't know.
Yeah.
So.
No, as long as we are good at communicating and get sort of a buy-in from the community, and they accept that, yeah, it won't be perfect from day one, but we're getting there. Then, yeah. And I think I've got the sense that Rudolf would like to be a part of this as well, RDF BBX, and he's quite focused on backend developer and developing databases, etc. So, yeah, Nugget, you're in. And Livy, you cannot avoid it, I think.
Yeah, I like what Gigi said about separating the topics a little bit. And I think there are some of them that don't need any type of dev work that we could work on them already, like looking into some metrics that we can start with, and some of the like quantification process, how to distribute that. Do we need a proposal for this role? Like things like that can happen without the technical part. We can start working on them.
I want to encourage Johan. I think he's going to be a great asset to the development task force. I'll pass it over to Johan. Johan?
Yeah, count me in.
Yeah, awesome.
Just let me know what time we meet.
Cool.
Yeah, I also volunteer, of course. I've been working on this with the SoftGov team alongside with Santi and Livy, and I'm loving it. So I want to do it as well. I wanted to mention as an extra point that maybe we should also focus for the long term into the how this could be adaptable for different DAOs. I come from Give as well, just as Lauren mentioned. So having all of these efforts focus on how adaptable it can be for many other DAOs should be important to start working on since now. Because essentially what we are going to be testing around right now, I want to implement it in Give as well. So that could be like a mutual feedback loop or something like that between at least TC and Give for now, and eventually with other DAOs.
Yeah, definitely. So let's make it modular and transparent and adaptable, sort of, without investing too much work in making a super architecture.
Christopher, go ahead and add my name in there too, because I'll stay synchronized between both the research and the development.
Yeah, and like you said, I will probably, or I will try to join the labs that work stream. So I have constant, have a see what you are doing there and can bring that information into the work group.
Awesome.
What time zone are you planning to do your sessions in?
So they are 9 a.m. PST, 6 p.m. Central European on Fridays.
Yeah, then I'm out. Sorry, that's impossible for me because that's kids cooking time.
Okay, they're recorded. So
yeah, cool.
Okay, cool.
Would have been so much easier if everyone would have lived in Sweden. Okay,
but would you have the? Would you like to join as well, or you're with limited availability now?
I would like to join. I'm not sure like which part would I help with. I think I could help with the backend or the bot part, but not with the data part.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think that there will be quite some distinct components that could be worked on separately for the bots, absolutely, and the backend, the store, and we have the UI, the dashboards where you input information into the system, and also like the analytics. It could be a separate part, and also the sort of decision making process around it. How do we vote for parameters, etc., which is more not so much coding, but instead describing that process and making sure that it's in place.
So what do you think, guys, should be the next steps for at least deciding what option to handle? For example, I like the third option, just like Divi, but maybe we have to discuss more in depth in the forum, or I don't know. What do you think?
Next steps, I'd say assessing the feasibility of doing feeding data into source cred is one super important thing. And then I'd say the next step would be to have like a book another meeting basically for the work group and go into more detail and decide on which process we would like to choose, and or maybe we have already decided to scrap the attempts of feeding data into source cred. What is the general sense?
I mean, we can look into it. It just seems difficult, but we can check.
I think if it's difficult, and then the praise dashboard is also difficult, I feel like picking the praise difficult is better than picking the source cred difficult, because then we are going in a direction of building praise as a product rather than trying to merge with something else.
Yeah. But would someone like to take on that querying, checking with the source cred, how difficult it is? Otherwise, I'll reach out to their team and sort of try to dig a bit.
I can look into it. I have no idea about source cred. I don't know if maybe somebody, if you've had some source cred stuff running already, maybe the guy who did that knows something about it, or did I ask?
I can bring it up with Has that I'm meeting on Monday, and I'll take that. And then we work. If possible, I would like to try to do meetings in the Euro time zone, but I think most of us actually are. YG, you are not in Europe, and Matteo, you are also not. But like early afternoon CET. Which time zone are you in?
Colombian time, that's GMT -5, and Lauren is Costa Rican time, so it's like 7 hours before yours or so.
Yeah. But does a time like 3 p.m. CET? Does that work for you? That's early morning, like 8 or 9 at your place, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's. I will give that a try. Invite for a time that is at 3 a.m. Maybe we should just set a date right now. Actually, it's Thursday.
The most challenging. Sorry, I think is the most challenging for YGG that is on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if it's so for me and Johan, we're on the West Coast. So if it's this time or later, I think that's doable. But so like this was 7 a.m. for me, which I'm not sure what time it was. Maybe 4 p.m. or 5 p.m.
Yeah. No, but let's do 4 p.m. then you can join. Getting up at 6 is I know that's too early. 7 is
yeah
is okay.
Yeah.
Cool. How about in 1 week's time on Thursday then? Today. Yeah. I'll set things up with the work group and make sure you get an invite. And yeah, unless someone has something to add, maybe that's it for today. I think it was a good discussion.